Helping Seniors Television, all about improving quality of life for seniors. If you're a senior, know a senior, or plan to be a senior, then this show is for you. It's all about helping you develop your own aging plan so you can age actively and with dignity. Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network of information, education, and resources. Welcome to today's edition of Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network. Whether you are caring for a senior, are a senior, or just plan to be one, we hope you'll enjoy today's program.
On today's edition of Helping Seniors TV, learn about advances in memory care from one of the most experienced providers in the area, Autumn House Memory Care, created specifically for those with dementia and Alzheimer's and other forms of memory loss. Molly Tucker of Autumn House visits with Helping Seniors TV host Joe Steckler.
Hi, I'm Joe Steckler, and I'm here in the studio this morning with Molly Tucker. And Molly is the admissions and marketing coordinator at Autumn House. And Autumn House is an assisted living facility that's primarily devoted to memory care. And I can remember, Molly, welcome to the show. Yes. This is your first time on it.
It is.
Have you ever done a television show before?
I haven't. This is my first one.
It's your first one?
This is my first television show.
Yeah. Well, I didn't tell you when we were talking, but after the show, my wife will probably tell me that you remind her a lot of our middle granddaughter, who is a nurse and back in Virginia right now. But you have a lot of her mannerisms and characteristics, I have to tell you that. But I think it's important, our viewing audience, that you know a lot about, or a little more about some of the guests we have on the show and what they bring to their work. And I think if Molly, before we even talk about memory care and Autumn House, I'd just like for Molly just to take a minute or so and tell our viewing audience about what your background is, and that the school you went to is extremely well noted for basketball, but they're well noted for other things too.
Yes. So I grew up in Kentucky. I think we've talked about this before. We're both from Madisonville, Kentucky.
No, wait a minute.
Surprise.
I forgot you're from Madisonville.
I was born in Madisonville, Kentucky, but grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. You know I'm really from there because I said Louisville and not Louisville, Kentucky,
yes.
Right? So I grew up in Kentucky. I ended up getting my Master's of Divinity at Duke Divinity School. So I'm a trained and ordained minister. I worked in that for a little while, and I actually still work as a worship coordinator here in town. That's my weekend gig, I like to call it. But I was trained in counseling with families and counseling with folks and being able to speak with folks about vulnerable subjects and things that, life transition. So that kind of brought me to Autumn House in a very roundabout way. My husband is a Methodist minister, so we actually met in seminary when we were at Duke Divinity School, and it is March Madness. So of course, I have a heart for March Madness because of Duke. We met in Divinity School. He's from Florida, so he was placed actually at a church here in the area, and that's how we ended up in this in the Century area in particular.
I think it's important, Molly, that what I just asked you, because there are so many backgrounds that people have, diverse backgrounds, that they bring different areas of fields of ministry, working with people, to people care in assisted living facilities and nursing homes and in certain types of medical practices which are geriatric care. So the United States is rapidly growing much older in terms of our population. So we need to do more to focus on ways to help these people and help them early on in this progression. So waiting for it to happen at the end of life. And I could probably tell stories, folks, to Molly about different clients that I've seen that placed loved ones at Autumn House. I followed Autumn House, the development of Autumn House. I spoke at their groundbreaking ceremony years ago, and I saw at that time what a good independent facility that concentrated on the welfare of a dementia person, what it could do. And but I'm not going to sit here and tell you how you should function at Autumn House. I want you to tell our viewing audience how you function as the things that you don't mention that I think are really, really important. I'll mention them too. But so just tell us a little bit about what do we mean when we say memory care and assisted living. What do you mean by that? So that our viewing audience understand.
So Autumn House is just memory care. So we are assisted living, but we only do memory care. So the main difference for us is that we don't have the different levels of care within our facility as far as independent living and then assisted living and then assisted living memory care and skilled nursing. We don't have all of those levels, but we do focus in on memory care. And that's important because that means that our entire staff is geared around the care for dementia, for folks with dementia. That means our nurses are trained in that way, our caregivers are trained in that way, our activities are geared towards those folks who need that kind of engagement. Our medical personnel who come in especially work with dementia patients. So everyone from our dental hygienists who come in to our hairdressers who come in, they know what it means to have dementia. They know that one day may be different than the next day. So we really do focus our training for our staff. And then even as you've seen, even our building itself is intended for dementia care. So the architecture, the layout of the household, our households completely are surround a courtyard.
Okay. Explain to me when I know what household means, but I'm sure that they don't, because to my knowledge, there is not another memory care organization that uses the household concept.
Right.
What do you mean when you say household concept? What do you really mean?
So we are a little bit different than some of the other memory cares in the area because we are intentional about saying our residents live on the household. So they have their own households. So we are set up in a home-like environment, and that's very intentional. We think folks have lived in a home-like environment their entire life, and we don't want to change that concept now. Okay. We don't want to add to the confusion or the getting agitated or flustered even if they're in a large space and can't figure out where they are, if it feels more transient. We want it to feel cozy. We want it to feel like a household. So our facility is set up in a circle on our household, so it's considered non-restrictive because our residents can make an entire circle around their household. Part of that includes our outside area, our courtyard area. But in that household, we have living rooms, we have dining rooms, we have a kitchen, we have their bedrooms, and that is intentional. It is set up like their normal household that they lived in 30 years ago or however long ago. So we are intentional in calling it a household too. It's in the nomenclature as well.
Okay, how many people can you care for at Autumn House now?
So we are licensed for 60, and we have two households. So we have what we call our A and our B household, which is our A hallway and our B hallway. And then we also have a C hallway and a D hallway. So we call them the AB household and the CD household. They function independently, and there can be 30 residents, we say, on each side, about 30. So we're licensed to take care of 60 folks.
Are these households separated, or do you have people that have early and late dementia in the same household, or do you separate them out into?
So we have them separated based on their progression within dementia. So we have some folks who are on our AB household as our folks who are usually more physically able or cognitively able to engage in conversation or activities or something like that. They may be someone that if you saw them at Publix, you may not know that they have any dementia needs. So those are folks who are typically more independent. We do have a nursing staff on that side. We do have caregivers on that side. We have activities for that side. We still offer assistance on that side as needed. But those are folks who are typically more able to articulate their needs. Now on the other side, on our CD hallway, that's where you're going to see folks who are a bit more progressed through dementia. So you may see some more wheelchairs or Jerry chairs. It may be folks who need more assistance in eating. It may be folks who have some problems with incontinence or are not able to make their needs known. And part of the reason that we have these two different levels is that throughout dementia, there are different care needs. we don't want someone to be roommates with someone who has completely different needs than them. We really try to engage folks at their levels and care for them at their level, whatever that may be. And because we do have the two sides of our facility as well, that makes us really good at long-term care. So if we have folks who come in, they're still very high functioning, still able to converse and feed themselves and maybe even go out to lunch with us when we do that. As they hit these new normals, what we call them, new normals along the way, if we do need to transition into our CD household, we're able to make that transition. And because both households look the exact same, they're set up in the exact same way, it's not an environmental change. The people are different, but it's not a stress that's brought on by environmental change. So
but do you really actually have two separate kitchens?
We do. So we have one kitchen that we prepare all of the food in that's separate from these households that we then deliver food to. But in each household, there's a smaller kitchen that we can do activities with, that folks can eat in there if they want to. But they really do function like two independent households.
But the food is all prepared out of the central kitchen?
It is, yes.
Do you prepare the same food for both, or do you have different foods for either side?
So we are able to accommodate to several different diets and dietary needs. So whether it's diabetic or pureed or chopped or just a regular diet, we're able to meet those needs.
Okay.
We typically have one menu option. We kind of have a set menu, but if folks don't like fish or if they don't like shrimp or whatever it is that we're serving, we're able to fix up a BLT or a wrap of some sort, or a salad, if it's something that we know that they don't like. We can offer alternatives.
If they didn't like shrimp, you'd really have to butcher that shrimp. I can't imagine.
I know, that wouldn't be me, but that's okay.
Don't you like shrimp?
I do.
Okay, well,
yes.
I do too. Fix them anyway. I like them that way. I know I shouldn't say this, but I really, really like fried shrimp. It's just, I know diet-wise, as we get older, we should stay away from fried foods. I know that, but I think also that as we age, that every person that ages has a right at certain times in their life to have something that they truly enjoy. And the reason I say that is because I remember years ago when I had command of the Navy's retirement home, I had a guy there who was 98 years old. And every time he'd go home for Christmas, he'd come in to see me after. I said, well, what did they tell you this time? And he said, Captain, he said, they're still upset that I have my cigar and my shot of bourbon every night. And I said, what did you tell them this time when they tried to get you to stop both? He said, I asked him, how long do you want me to live? He said, I'm 98. How long do you want me to live? So I think they finally got the point that the guy, he was going to do something he truly enjoyed. And for him, his shot of bourbon and his cigar at the end of the day was something extremely important. And I think that's the same thing when we talk about different kinds of care. We talk about memory care. We have to be able to structure different types of living that fit the people, that can get them into a safe element of care as they try to live the rest of their lives. And I think from the very beginning, that's the way Autumn House was structured. What you're telling me is that Autumn House has continued the same element of care to this day that they did when they opened the facility many years ago.
Right. We were opened 20 years ago, excuse me, this past October. So we're actually getting closer to our 21st birthday than we are to our 20th birthday. And I think we've consistently held this high standard of care. So that's with, our nurses that are on the floor, that's with our caregivers, our caregiving staff that's on the floor, that's with our administrative staff. We really do seek to be the best and to have the best quality of care. And I think our families know that as well. And in some recent months, I've met families who have previously had a loved one at Autumn House from, 5, 10, 15 years ago, and they still rave about it. They still had such a good experience with, they entrusted their family members to us. They entrusted us to take care of them throughout their final days. And that's no small step. That's a big deal. I tell families, when you're choosing an assisted living or a memory care, it's one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life.
Well, you made a comment or a statement when we first started the show when you talked about, I call them elements of care, and you said memory care differs from general assisted living care, but still, within the memory care itself, you still provide all the services that a general assisted living facility or a nursing home would provide. So would it become necessary to move somebody from Autumn House into a nursing home? Have you ever had to have that experience?
Well, because we have 2 licenses under our assisted living license. So we have limited nursing services and extended congregate care. That first one, limited nursing services, is what it sounds like. We have a nurse on our floor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they are allowed to offer limited nursing services. So it's not the nursing services you'd see the full scope of what we call a skilled nursing facility or a hospital even. It's not, the full scope of whatever a nurse is trained to do, but it is limited. If someone's needs go beyond that, we also have extended congregate care. That is a specialty license in the state of Florida that allows folks to age in place. So if their needs go beyond what they came in with, or if they go beyond what we can offer within our limited nursing services, we can put them on an extended congregate care plan and really create a specialty plan for them.
They would stay at Autumn House, but you would bring in a skilled nursing service, say like Kindred or...
Well, a lot of times when we work with ECC, with our ECC license, we a lot of times will partner with a hospice service. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're at the end of life. We've had folks who have been on a hospice service for 5 years within our facility, so a long time. But we really try to do everything we can to make sure that they don't have to make a change. They don't have to move somewhere else.
How do you manage that, though? That's something that doesn't generally come up, but how do you manage to keep, generally speaking, hospice is brought in if there's a prognosis that life expectancy is 6 months or less.
Well, actually, a lot of times now, hospice can be brought in even earlier. So,
I know.
So we have, like I said, we've had some folks who have been on it 4 and 5 years, and sometimes that's because they will, they'll need a hospital bed, and hospice will pay for it. Hospice services are completely free, so we say if you go on hospice, they always have the option to come off of hospice too. If health improves or if something changes within the family, you can come off of hospice. It doesn't happen often, but it's possible. But it's not necessarily just those last few final months and days. It is a little bit different. An admitting diagnosis can be dementia or Alzheimer's. So we work with all 4 hospice agencies in the county within Autumn House.
So it makes it extremely important for our viewers to understand that while they might think that care could be at this level and it could not go any higher, but generally speaking, if it's at this level and there's a need to go up here, if you're working with the right kind of organization or a facility that's caring for that with their licenses, they understand that there's ways to get this extra incremental care.
And we do try to work with our professionals, with the personnel that come into our building, with hospice agencies, however we can to keep families there. We get to know our residents, we get to know our families quite well. We don't want them to have to make a move. If we can bring that care in, if we can make some kind of adjustment, we really want to keep them there as long as we can.
Why is it important, Molly, for people that have dementia problems, why is it important to keep them in the same environment?
So we really believe a lot in structure and routine. There's a lot of, there can be a lot of confusion if that's not maintained. That includes their environment. We want to keep the environment as stable as possible. We want to keep the day as stable as possible. And when sometimes they're disoriented due to their dementia, we want to create a structure, a schedule, a routine for them that does create some comfort. That's really important in maintaining. One thing that I always tell folks, it seems so strange, but one thing I tell folks when we go on tour around Autumn House, during our meal times, we have assigned seating. And that feels so, I think sometimes it feels so, we have assigned seating during meal times. And sometimes I think it feels so first grade, right? It feels, that there doesn't seem to be a good reason for it. But part of that is maintaining that structure and that routine. You know, folks don't have to get anxious about where they're going to go sit every day at lunch. I've heard stories about other assisted livings where people show up an hour early because they want to make sure they get their spot. But we do. That's part of, even little things like that are part of the structure and the routine that we maintain in the environment. We don't want to create anxiety. We don't want to create frustration or agitation because they don't know where they're going or what they're supposed to be doing. Are they supposed to be going home? You know, that's a phrase we hear quite often. I'm supposed to go home, or my mom's supposed to come get me, something like that. We want to maintain that stability within the day.
Because it's some of those buzzwords you just used. One of the worst things you can do to a person that has dementia is to get them upset.
Right.
Because it can change their personality, and it can change the personality of those that deal with them because they don't know how to cope with these different behavior things that a memory care patient may exhibit. It's a hard thing to explain to somebody that doesn't understand it, but a good memory care organization is geared to recognize some of the symptoms they see the people exhibit so they know how to cope with it.
Right. One thing we work with a lot is, you know, if we sense that there's some agitation or some frustration coming, our caregivers or our nurses, our staff is trained to change the environment, not just change the conversation, which can sometimes work. We can sometimes divert to another conversation, but we also want to change the environment. Sometimes that can create just a total change in mindset or mood. Since our household is built in a circle, sometimes it's as simple as turning a hallway into the living room or turning a hallway into the dining room, and we're kind of in a new place. But our households also surround a courtyard that's outside. There's really nothing that can replace the feeling of being outside, both for a dementia resident, for you, for me. When we step outside, it's just a completely different feeling. So if we need to, you know, change a mindset or change a mood, we really do try to utilize changing the environment. And because of the way that we're set up, we're able to do that at Autumn House.
What did you know, in all the questions, you sent me some questions we've covered most of them, but one of the ones we didn't talk about was your multi-sensory unit. I've heard a lot of different buzzwords about different programs. I know Zahn does some different things. They have different things built into their rooms. But what do you mean by multi-sensory? What does that mean?
So each day when you or I wake up, we orient ourselves to the world through our senses. So even when we don't realize it, we're hearing things, or we're smelling things, or we're seeing certain things that orient us to right now. And sometimes we respond to different senses differently. So I may respond to music when I hear things a lot differently than maybe you may respond to smell very strongly or something like that. We try to use all of the senses throughout the day for our residents. So if there's someone who responds really well to visuals, to art, we try to do art and using tactile things to stimulate those senses. It helps them orient to their day. We use music a lot for folks who like to feel the beat or like to hear. That helps them connect in a different way. It helps them feel like they have a sense of belonging where they're comfortable. So we really try to utilize all the different senses each day. It's part of we call it our flow of the day. So we have 12 to 16 different activities throughout the day as the day flows, where we really do try to utilize all of these different senses. So folks who connect to the world in different ways, who orient themselves to the world in those ways, we can really connect with them.
I think many people that might have a vision of a memory care place or an assisted living facility and being something where there is a continuum or a continual activity thing going on all the time. That's not true.
Right. Right.
And one of the things, I think one of the key things in a memory care place is that good memory care units have learned that there's a time for activity, there's a time for quiet. Can you explain that a little bit to our viewing audience?
So we use a lot of different types of activities for different types of engagement, but we also have downtime. We have time before meals where we have about a 45-minute downtime where folks can go back to their room and just breathe for a moment, or if they need help going to the restroom, transitioning to the next activity. You know, we use that downtime for that too. Not everyone is completely extroverted. You know, I always tell folks we're not going to make introverts extroverts or extroverts introverts once they move to Autumn House. That's not our goal. But we do like to use a mix of different activities for engagement. So sometimes we have big group activities that can be several of our residents. It can be 20 to 30 of our residents gathering around for music. Then sometimes we have, a group of 5 or 6 that gather around to play dominoes. Sometimes we just do a one-on-one activity where it's, tell me about this photo of your family, or let's read this book together, something like that. We just want to make sure everyone is engaged on a daily basis. But there are times needed for rest too.
Yes.
So, with that engagement, we also want to provide those spaces of rest, of if they need a nap or if they just need to kind of sit and be alone for a little while. We want to respect that.
Yeah, the older I get, and of course, I've had a lot of medical problems that have impacted on my ability to function. And I'm just thankful that I'm able to continue to do these things. But I can think of people that I know that I sent to Autumn House because I felt that Autumn House was a good facility. It cared for people the right way. We have a very, very short period of time. What is something significant about audience you want our viewers to know? You got 30 seconds.
Is significant about Autumn House in 30 seconds. I really think that our almost 21-year history now really speaks for itself. We've got staff who have been there that long. We've got families who will talk about us from 15 years ago and how important we were. Really that legacy, we know what we're doing. We're the experts in what we're doing. We work with medical professionals who are the experts in what they do, and we're really proud of that.
I agree with you. And I want to thank you, Molly, for being here because after the show's over, I want to talk a little bit more about our hometown. We grew up in the same town.
We did.
But I want to thank you, viewer, for watching the show today because I think this gives you another look at what memory care is, and I want to thank our people for being with us today. I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we would welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.